Ladies and gentlemen, today, in a sea of negativity, we're going to try to be your light amongst the darkness. Now, I'm not sure I've ever seen the fishing industry more polarized than it is right now, but I think there are some things on my mind that I think we should all be thankful for. And that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to talk about the good things in bass fishing. All that and more on this episode of Tackle Talk.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Dance, and you're listening to Tackle Talk.
This is the Tackle Talk Podcast, brought to you by American Legacy Fishing and Outdoors. World-class fishing gear, unmatched personal service. Now, here's your host, Andrew Hayes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Tackle Talk Podcast. As always, we are brought to you by American Legacy Fishing. And I guess in the theme of today's episode, if you want to talk about something that we should be thankful for and I really appreciate about the fishing industry, it is ALF. The folks over at ALF are a great family-owned Midwestern tackle shop that actually cares about their customers more than any other tackle shop or any other website that I've ever seen in my life. I've been buying things from American Legacy Fishing way before Tackle Talk ever existed, way before we ever worked with them, because I always got the best customer service, I got great shipping, and they had the best sales on the internet on both new and used fishing gear. That's what I loved, browsing the ALF website to see what used gear they had on the site at any given time. I can't tell you how many times I've bought something used from ALF that I could almost swear was never used. It looks brand new when it shows up at my door. The very, very lightly used but discounted fishing gear they have over there is incredible. They also have great sales on everything else that you could need, including an ever-expanding line of baits and line and terminal tackle, whatever you need to go out there and have the best day possible on the water. And as always, you can use code TACKLETALK5. That's going to save you an extra 5% on both regularly priced and sale items over at AmericanLegacyFishing.com. We want to save you money any chance we can. The folks over at ALF also help us do that. Shout out to ALF. We appreciate you all. An extra 5% for Tackle Talk listeners for using code TACKLETALK5 over at www.AmericanLegacyFishing.com. Okay, folks, the first thing we have here today, now that the Bassmaster Classic is over, the next big event on the calendars is coming up this week, starting Thursday, April 3rd, and it's the Major League Fishing Red Crest, which is basically their version of the Classic, the biggest tournament of the year on the Major League Fishing side. So this year, Red Crest is going to be held at Lake Guntersville in Alabama. It's a 4-day event with 50 anglers competing for the top total weight through day 1 and 2. That's a total of day 1 and 2, and then after day 2, they will cut it down to the top 20 anglers. Their weight will zero, they will start over again, and then they will fish that third day, and after that third day, they'll do one final cut to 10 anglers that will fish on Championship Sunday. Their weights will zero, they will start over completely, and they will fish Championship Sunday on April 6th. There will also be a Red Crest Outdoor Expo on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, April 4th, 5th, and 6th at the Von Braun Center in Huntsville, Alabama, which is also free to attend, just like the Classic is, and you get the chance to hang out with your favorite anglers, your favorite companies. They have great giveaways and more from 11 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, April 4th through 6th. So next week, we will recap who wins Red Crest, but as always, you can keep up with everything Red Crest and Major League Fishing over at MajorLeagueFishing.com. Okay, folks, this episode today, we're going to get into like the meat of the episode here, is going to be a little different, but I sincerely believe that what we're going to talk about today is going to be more beneficial than any new bait we could talk about, any new rod, reels, line, anything like that. I want to zoom out a little bit today and talk about something that's really been on my mind the past week or two. So I know this isn't like our normal style of episode here, but I've heard from a ton of you in replies and messages about all the drama and the negativity in fishing over the past week. And without getting too in-depth in it, if you just go online, look at any picture or any post or any YouTube video from the past week, specifically the Bassmaster Classic, and you will see a flood of what I'm going to call boomer bots, right? Just really divisive people online that have a one-track mind that are there to just cause chaos, to spread negativity, and just be kind of like a cancer to the fishing world. There's no reasoning with them. There's no getting them to see your side of anything. If you try try to argue with him, you are wasting your breath. It's just not worth it. But do it. Click on any video, especially of like Easton's big win, and you will see nothing but a flood of just ignorant comments feeding off of each other for attention. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in today. It is way cooler to go online and hate on something or someone or spread negativity than it is to be positive. That's what gets the eyeballs. That's what gets the clicks. That's what feeds into just this addiction that people have for drama. And at a point, it just reduces us to nothing more than our lowest desires. And it's sad to see. So today, instead, I want to buck that trend. Here at Tackle Talk, we've always tried to stay above the drama, above the noise. And today, I want to fight it with positivity because honestly, I feel like that's what we all need most right now. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to do my best to step back and from a truly neutral point of view, talk about the things that I'm most thankful for in the fishing world today. So I hope this resonates with you guys a little bit, but I'm going to start with like the most recent things. So like the classic and pro fishing and that kind of stuff. And then I'll probably work my way toward more bigger picture things or more specific things outside of pro fishing and, the industry stuff in general. So the first thing I'm thankful for today, I'm thankful that Easton Fothergill won the Bassmaster Classic. I am. I'm thankful that a class act, stand-up young man who has dedicated his whole life to this sport so far, who is the son of angler Gordon Fothergill, a Minnesota legend, and I'm thankful that he got to hoist that Ray Scott trophy. I have never heard a single negative word about Easton Fothergill, and he has a ton of reputable anglers who sing his praises. He is a man of faith. He's overcome some pretty incredible struggles and situations to get to where he is today, and I think we should all appreciate that. Most notably, in 2023, 2 years ago, we didn't know if Easton Fothergill would ever fish again, because while in college, he was hospitalized in Alabama with an infected abscess in his brain. So he had to have emergency brain surgery, and believe it or not, a hole literally drilled in his skull, basically to save his life. And what's even more remarkable is shortly afterwards, not only did he recover, but he immediately returned with a doctor's note and won the 2023 Bassmaster College bracket while fishing for the University of Montevallo. Then, fast forward a mere 19 months after brain surgery, and he wins the Bassmaster Classic at 22 years old, overcoming some incredible circumstances. Not only does he win the Classic, but he breaks the all-time Bassmaster Classic weight record set by Kevin Van Dam of 69 pounds and 11 ounces. Not just by a little bit, he crushed that record by 7 pounds and 4 ounces, I believe, with an absolute stone cold nail in the coffin 8-pounder as time expired. Hollywood could not have scripted this story any better, and for that, for the sport, for Easton, for his family, for all of us, we should rally behind that, and I'm grateful that Easton Fothergill won the Bassmaster Classic. The next thing I'm thankful for, I'm thankful that the youth in our sport are succeeding. And I know that's an unpopular opinion. So many people are currently complaining about the youth in our sport, but I wholeheartedly disagree. In any other sport, the success of the youth is praised. I can remember being an Ohio kid when LeBron James was coming through the high school ranks. It was pandemonium around here because people were so excited for that young youth talent to really come in the NBA and take over, and there were such high expectations for him. The state of Ohio and really the NBA in general was buzzing. But even more generally, in sports, one of the biggest days of the year in sports is the draft. For any sport, every fan base gets so excited for the new talent to be pushed into their organization. What they don't do is sit there and actively try and discredit the accomplishments of the younger competitors in their sport like so many people in fishing do. Youth, especially successful youth in our sport, is a sign of the overall health of the sport. Older competitors phase out, new competitors come in and take their place. That's the cycle of life. It's the cycle of sports. But because fishing is a less physically demanding sport where you can compete well into your 50s or 60s or beyond, we tend to want to hold on to those older anglers longer, whether it be, personal fandom or nostalgia or just our unwillingness to accept change, but so many people see it as a negative that there are new names and quote unquote people they've never heard of at the top of the leaderboard. But the dirty little secret is, I would say, if you don't recognize those names at the top of the leaderboards, especially in like the Elite Series or the Classic, because everybody in the Elite Series and the Classic has been competing at a lower level for years, it seems like, then all you're admitting is that you're not following the sport of fishing as closely as you claim. But I, on the other hand, really enjoy that we have a healthy, extremely competitive wave of younger anglers that are entering the sport and succeeding. And if some of those negative voices really cared about the sport as much as they claim to, you would think they would be happy about it too. Okay, the next thing here, I'm thankful that the Bassmaster Classic is free. It's free to watch online, except for a few hours each day on Fox, which is also free, by the way. All you have to do to watch Fox is have a $9 antenna in the back of your TV, and you can watch Fox. But the rest is free online, and then the expo is completely free, and the weigh-in is completely free. And I can hear some people right now saying, but it costs money to park at the arena. First off, if that's you, you're the problem in this whole mindset, because I'm talking about the things that I'm thankful for, and all you can think about is the negative. But also, they had free buses and free shuttles to take you from the free expo, that where we parked anyway, had free parking, to the free weigh-in at the arena. I mean, no other event that I've ever been to is as fan-friendly as the Bassmaster Classic, but still draws so much criticism from those same fans that they are working their tail off to provide you with all of this free entertainment and these free opportunities, and all we do is whine and complain. It is insane how much value and fun and stuff you can do at the Bassmaster Classic without paying 1 penny. I mean, you can't even go to like a movie nowadays with your family for, I don't know, less than 50 or $100 or more. I mean, one of my coworkers the other day was talking about like buying tickets and going to one of the first Reds games of the year, and they said by the time that they got like the family there and all the kind of stuff, it was hundreds of dollars. Meanwhile, the biggest spectacle in our sport is completely free, and for that, I'm thankful. But here's another good one. I'm thankful that the anglers and the people that we look up to are so accessible. This actually makes me think back to when we had Mike Iaconelli on a few months back to preview the Columbus Fishing Expo. We were talking about the seminars, and I said that's always one of my favorite parts, and he brought up a really good point. He said the access that you get to your favorite anglers is unlike almost any other sport you could be a fan of. I mean, you can go to the Columbus Fishing Expo, a very regional, kind of small on a big scale expo, sit in the front row, be 3 feet from one of the most famous anglers in the world, and walk right up to him afterwards, get a picture, get an autograph, shake his hand, and talk fishing. The same thing was available this past weekend and will be available this next weekend at Redcrest. You can go up, at the Bassmaster Classic Expo and say hi to Kevin Van Dam or Jacob Wheeler or any of the biggest names in fishing. Shoot, even not in person. In fishing, pro anglers respond to questions and messages and comments all day long, where you have a chance to interact with your favorite anglers from the couch. What other sport gives you that kind of access to its top stars? The nature and the size of the industry that fishing is just really lends itself to be kind of a little bit more personal and have a little bit more intimate relationship between the fans and the stars. And for that, I'm very thankful. Some other positives here that I'm really thankful for. I'm thankful that so many of the legends of our sport are still here with us. And I think that's something that we take for granted a lot, and we shouldn't. I remember vividly at the Bassmaster Classic, I was at the Bass Livecast desk, and I turned around because they were doing like a presentation on one of the big stages there, and I saw, I believe, Bill Dance, Jimmy Houston, Rick Clunn, Roland Martin, Hank Parker, and Denny Brower, all in like one swoop of my eyes, making just a quick turn around the desk. That is incredible. There is so much bass fishing history within like 100 yards of me that it's breathtaking. And the fact that so many of these legends are still here with us is a blessing that we need to appreciate more. This isn't baseball where, our Mount Rushmore of players all passed away, generations ago. If this was baseball, basically our Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, they're all still here. They're all still alive and still doing appearances and still out there making content, and it's just awesome to see. With the exception of a few, like, Mr. Ray Scott, the majority of bass fishing legends are still alive and well and accessible at events like the Bassmaster Classic Expo. And I think that's something that sometimes we need to take a step back and appreciate while we still have them. This will be one of the last ones, I think, on the pro fishing side, but I'm actually glad that we have more tournament circuits now. We now have the Bassmaster Elites, we have the Bassmaster Opens, we have the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour, we have the MLF Tackle Warehouse Invitationals, we have the NPFL. All of those in some capacity broadcast their tournaments for free. So I'm just really grateful that we have choices of what to watch and how to consume the sport of fishing. You can like one circuit more than the other. That's fine. You can like some of their rules on information or technology or whatever it may be more than others. That's great. Go support those leagues. But it's hard to be upset about having more choices. So I think that's something that we should be happier about than we are. But let's get to some other things here. You know what I'm really happy about? I'm happy that we live in a time where we've never had more choice when it comes to fishing gear. As a consumer, we live in the single best time that has ever existed for buying fishing gear for a few reasons. One, we have more companies and more products than we've ever had. Small companies, large companies, independent, equity-owned, new, old, small batch, mass-produced. We've got everything, and there are new companies popping up seemingly every day. I see a new soft plastic company or glide bait company or jig company on my feed. It seems like every couple hours these days. And that's great for anglers because, again, we have more choice. We have more freedom to seek out the products that we want from the people that we want. And for all the knockoff talk or unoriginality or whatever, again, as a consumer, all that means is you have more choices. Oh, now 17 companies make a winged fluke? Cool. Pick your favorite one and buy that one. That's it. That's all there is to it. No need to get upset. No need to start a war online. Who makes your favorite one? Who has it at the best price? Who do you like the most? Cool, go buy that one and go fish. I've never seen an industry complain so much in my life about the market giving them more freedom of choice of their products. But it's not just the number of products and where they come from, but how you get them. We live in a world where at the click of a button, you can have any bait anywhere shipped to your house in like 3 days. You can have anything you want, any size, any color, and get it put on your doorstep without moving a muscle. The convenience by which we can acquire all this fishing gear is unlike anything that's ever been seen in human history. A complex logistical network that requires hundreds of thousands of moving pieces just so you can get your pack of yum dingers dropped off to your doorstep instead of having to get up, put your shoes on, and go to the store, heaven forbid. We have it so easy. Don't forget that the world hasn't always been like this. You haven't had this ease of access of products and this number of products to choose from ever in human history. So for that, I think we should be a little bit more thankful. We also have never had more access to information than we do today. Right now, you can sit down, open up your phone, and find out anything about any body of water, any bait, any knot, any rod, any reel, any technique, anything your little brain can imagine. You can read about it. You can watch a video about it for free in seconds. The information that previous generations of anglers had to spend years on the water to learn, the mapping, the layout of the lake that our grandparents would have killed for, is right here on your phone for free. I mean, I can actually drive around on Google Earth or Google Maps and look at water and scout spots to fish from my couch without ever getting up. And if you want to learn about how to catch fish in Indiana in July, well, guess what? There are 27,000 videos on YouTube right now that you can watch and see how people in your area are catching fish, what they're throwing, and where they're doing it. And I can't even articulate how incredibly lucky we are to have this much information, which is the single most important thing in fishing, by the way, at our disposal at any given time on any topic you can imagine. You used to have to wait for a magazine or a 30-minute VHS tape to read or watch something about fishing that might help you. Now there's 10 million, billion, trillion different resources, from print to video to audio like this to any medium you can imagine on the internet, just waiting for you. And that's a very powerful thing. And that's something that, again, I'm extremely grateful for. It's a huge positive in fishing that's helped so many people out there. And I think we should all take a minute and appreciate it. I'm thankful for the friends that I've made in fishing. I've met my best friends through fishing that I never would have even crossed paths with. And now some of these people are the first people that I would call if my house was on fire or if I was in need, and I met them through fishing. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the memories of fishing with my grandpas and my dad. I'm thankful for the charity fishing derbies that I've been able to be a part of and see that look on a kid's face when they catch their first bluegill and the sheer excitement that elicits, because we've all known that exact same feeling. I'm thankful for the work my local DNR does to protect our fisheries and preserve the water and the fish as an actual resource. I know sometimes we may not agree with everything that they do, but I'm thankful for the work that they do, because it just makes sure that me and generations after me will be able to enjoy the same outdoors, the same land, the same water, the same fish that I do. And I could go on like this for hours, but basically at the end of the day, there's a lot to be thankful for in fishing. I mean, go to anything like the Classic Expo or your local expos or, out on the water, things like that. You will not meet better people than you will through fishing. And I think sometimes it's a shame that, the actual people in fishing, the people that I know, that I've got to be friends with, this community that we've built around this show and around just the fishing industry in general, are the best people on the face of the earth. But if you log in online, you would think that we are nothing more than just a bunch of negative Nancys that complain about every single thing. And I think sometimes it's just nice to sit here and talk about the things that are great, because when you look at comment sections and when people live on the internet for hours and hours, that seems like reality. That's not reality. What we just talked about for the past 20 minutes, that's reality. That's what I love about fishing. The people are great. Our industry is great. Our sport is great. We are in a great place no matter what anyone around us says. I know it can feel like we're in a dark place if you look at the internet, but we're not. We are currently living through the best time in bass fishing history in terms of the size of our sport, in terms of the amount of opportunities in our sport, and the amount of opportunities to be around our sport, to the amount of free media available to people to consume and create, the amount of convenience of fishing gear, and the access to information. I really think when you look at it that way, the golden age of fishing is right now. And sometimes I think there's just a lot of negative voices out there that have made careers and profit and prey off of negativity and sowing doubt and division amongst us as anglers, but don't fall for it. They're flat out wrong. So there's a lot to be thankful for in the fishing world today. My question to you would be, what are you thankful for in fishing? Let me know. Send me a message, send me an email, tackletalkpodcast@gmail.com, and let me know. I think we need to focus more on the good and less on the negative, and that's what I wanted to do here today. Okay, folks, and finally here, it's been a couple weeks. I know we are overdue on the mailbag, so let's hop into a couple quick mailbag questions to end today's show. Okay, the first mailbag question here is from Nathaniel, and he says, "Hey, Andrew, I just started listening to your podcast recently, and I love soaking in all the information to help me be a better angler and a better fisherman. From your first episode on Spotify up until now, I've loved listening to everything in between. I have two questions for you. First off, I fish farm ponds primarily, and the one I fish most has a ton of lily pads that grow around the edges as the year goes on, and they only get worse throughout the year. Do you have any suggestions on how to fish lily pads when they start to grow out of control above the water? And how do you find the fish when they aren't in the shallow parts of the pond?" Hey, Daniel. So Let's talk lily pads. That's a good one. So first off, while they can be annoying to maneuver and fish around, they're a great sign of a healthy fishery. Some of the healthiest ponds that I know are ponds that have a lot of vegetation. And some of the worst, weakest ecosystems of ponds that I know about are ones that have little to no vegetation or pads. So I think typically I look at them as a pretty good thing. Now, I think lily pads help produce oxygen, I believe, for the pond. So I know that's a good thing, but they also provide cover, not just for bass, but also for bait fish, for aquatic insects, all of which are kind of a vital part of that food chain, especially in a smaller ecosystem like a pond. But the pain in the tail is fishing around them effectively. So first is your gear. If you're around thick lily pads, that means I'm going to go with a casting rod over a spinning rod, and I'm beefing up my rod and I'm beefing up my line. So I'm going to go medium heavy at the bare minimum, but I prefer a heavy, fast action rod, not a moderate rod, and I'm going to use braid. Almost no matter what, because no matter what I'm throwing, I want to have the gear to win the battle over the bass once I do hook it to get it out of those pad stems and out of those weeds. So heavy rod, fast rod, and braid. But I'm also going to focus on, I guess I would call like 3 plans of attack on where to fish. Those are going to be around the pads, under the pads, and over the pads. Really, those are your only 3 options. So around the pads sounds like it might be easier for your pond earlier in the year when those pads are first coming up. And it sounds like they're more highly concentrated around the perimeter of that pond. So make those casts that allow you to kind of go parallel to the outside of those pad lines with something in the open water like a chatterbait or a swim jig or a speed worm or something like that that could draw those fish out of the pads and have them hit your lure in more open water. Fishing around or just off the pads is a good start usually. But as the sun comes up and it gets higher in the sky, those fish tend to pull closer to that cover, which again is true with lily pads for sure. So midday, usually those fish are kind of right under those pads, using it as cover and shade. So now you're going to have to go a little bit more directly into the pads. Same thing later in the year as that pond gets more fully covered, there isn't going to be really that option of going around them anymore. So now we're going either over or under those pads. To go under, you're going to need to kind of punch those small edges or openings in the pads. That's where you get like a punch rig or a really heavy Texas rig with a pegged weight on it. And I prefer like a compact, skinnier profile to help you get through. So more like a beaver or a bug profile. Just search punching baits and you'll see all kinds of what I'm talking about. I mean, you can use a Rage Punch Bug. You could use the Pit Boss. Honestly, I'm not usually a huge fan of Guggen, but they have something called the Nuke Punch. That's a good little punching bait. Something that has almost no appendages along the body and then some fairly streamlined appendages at one tail end of it. And just punch those small openings the best you can. And then, of course, your third option is to go up. So you can go above those pads, and that usually means a frog. So work your frog above the lily pads, but don't just mindlessly work it. Really pay attention to any time that frog comes to like the edge of one of the pads before going to the next one, and really milk that like second or two where it's a little bit more vulnerable at the edge of the pad. And you'll realize that a lot of times that's when you get hit. When you come to like a less covered part of the cast, it's easier for that fish to see the bait, to track the bait, and to commit when it's at one of those more slightly open spots or that slightly open pocket than it is when it's in the dead middle of the pad, obviously. So use those little pockets and those spaces to your advantage. All right, the next question here is from Eric, and he said, "Hey, Andrew, I just started fishing. My 10-year-old asked me to start taking him. I've fished in the past, but when I was really young. I got 2 ugly stick rods because they were affordable for me right now, looking to build my tackle as I'm going and doing mostly lake and river fishing from the shore. Probably crappie, bass, trout, and bluegill. Would you recommend kit packages or just building my own as I go? Love the show. By the way, I've been listening every day to hear back episodes since I made the decision to start fishing, and I appreciate any help you can give, Eric." Well, Eric, that's a good question, and one that you honestly have impeccable timing on, because in the next few weeks, we're going to be able to announce this project in full. But since this is one of the questions here, and one of the questions that honestly we get a ton here on the show, is how do I go about building a complete tackle box? Or how do I start? Where do I start? What list do I need to build my first tackle box? So what I've done is we've teamed up with our friends over at Dark Horse Tackle to make the Tackle Talk Bass Essentials box that you can buy at any time. And it's great as an all-around loaded box full of what I would buy if I was putting together like an essential box of bass fishing baits. So the details on that are still coming, but if you sit tight, I would say like a week or two. I think we're almost ready to get it up for pre-order, so you kind of jumped me on the announcement here, but here you go, I guess. Here's your teaser. That'll be coming here pretty soon. That would be my recommendation, just because it's something that I kind of built based on what I would probably put in my tackle box anyway. I think it'll be easier to grab something like this than it really will be to kind of start from a random starting point and try to track down 30 different lures from 30 different places and try and spend like 3 times the money. But overall, kit packages, or at least the right kit packages, not all of them, I should say, they're a great place to start, but they're never going to be your end-all be-all. Even this one's not going to be every lure that you ever need, but I think it's a great place to start. That's what I'm trying to do with this box. I want it to be an awesome starting point that gives you everything that you need to begin, and then it lets you add things as you grow as an angler. Okay, and the last question here is from Noah, and he says, "Hey Andrew, I've been listening for about a year, and I just wanted to write in and tell you your episodes on jerkbaits really helped me kick off 2025 with my largemouth PB of 8.8 pounds. I was super stoked and attributed it to having somewhere to get good information on new techniques. My question is, how do you determine if you are A, in a bad spot, B, throwing the wrong thing, or C, you're just not using the right color? I'm overwhelmed picking out what and when to change. As always, thanks, Noah." Okay, well, first off, dude, I'm not just going to skim by it. You caught an 8.8 pounder on a jerkbait to start the year. That is an incredible catch. 8.8 pounds on treble hooks, by the way, gives me nightmares just thinking about. But also, sometimes that's what you have to do to catch them, right? Especially early spring, right after ice out, the old suspending jerkbait. Very, very cool. Glad that episode helped a little bit. Congrats on the PB. That is a giant. But to answer your question here, how do I decide when to switch spots, when to switch lures, or when to switch colors? Well, your first choice is obviously the spot, because without a spot to throw a lure, there is no lure or color to choose. So location is my first objective always. And I'm very much a run and gun type angler. So I'm consistently moving and trying to find the fish that will cooperate versus dwelling on the fish that won't. That's just me. I know there's multiple schools of thought like that. I would say if I was in like a high stakes tournament and I knew that I had found fish and I was around them, but they wouldn't bite, I would probably be a little bit more persistent with them and not leave them so fast. But most of the time, I'm fun fishing. I'm constantly moving, I'm adjusting, I'm tinkering, and my brain goes, well, what about over there? Like every 60 seconds. So the first thing I'm adjusting is my spot. Now, once I find a productive area, that's when I'll slow down. Catch a few off this big rock point. Okay, well, let's back up, slow down, and really try and pick this place apart and figure it out. That's where I'll start to adjust my lure choice. Because if I caught, 2 big fish off a football jig coming down that big transition bank, well, okay, maybe there are more fish that I'm missing that are staged up a little higher on that point up toward the top, or that have bait fish pinned on the backside of that, or maybe they're suspended, and can I find some fish that are looking up and actively feeding? Well, okay, I don't know. Let's throw a spook and walk it directly over the point. Let's throw a jerkbait. Let's run a DT10 down the side of it. I know there are fish around because I pulled 2 of them off right here. So is there something else I can do by switching up my presentation to pick more fish off that spot? So the one thing, and I don't know, maybe right or wrong, that I don't put a lot of investment in is the color. Maybe I should, I don't know, but I'm pretty much a pick the most natural color that I can get away with for the water conditions and the clarity and go with it. If I'm in a shad lake, I'm throwing shad patterns. If I'm in a bluegill or a brim lake, I'm throwing bluegill or crappie patterns. If it's dirty, I'm throwing dark or black colors, right? I'm a pretty simple creature when it comes to color choice, for me anyway, and the other two, what I'm throwing and where I'm throwing, are much more important to me. All right, everybody, that is the episode today. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate you all a ton. As always, find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart. If you can subscribe, that helps a ton. If you can leave us a review, that helps even more. Find us on the website, tackletalkpodcast.com. There we've still got some mugs. We've got some t-shirts. We've got some stickers and decals and all kinds of stuff. You can go find it over on tackletalkpodcast.com. And we'll see you right back here next Tuesday for another brand new episode of Tackle Talk.
Thank you for listening to the Tackle Talk Podcast. Tackle Talk is produced by Andrew Hayes. Copyright 2019. For more, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.